Bring Me the Horizon Post-Human Next Gen album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning. Here tonight to chat about this latest album from Bring Me the Horizon, metalcore act out of the UK. One of the biggest in modern metalcore, and my feelings on them over the years have been a roller coaster, to say the very least. I mean, when they were starting to make their rounds in the early days with albums like Count Your Blessings and Suicide Season, these were albums that came out during a time that, I mean, I'm just going to be real with you, I just really was not listening to a lot of modern metalcore. It just wasn't really my thing, and these albums were not really helping me get any closer to enjoying a lot of it. It was just a lot of very bloated, very obnoxious material that just wasn't for me. But over the next few years, they started to polish up their sound and actually, dare I say, get a little progressive in the genre with some very fresh and new, exciting ideas on albums like There's a Hell, Believe Me, I've Seen It, and Sempiternal. Dare I say, a lot of the material on these records I almost respected, especially on Sempiternal. There was just some really quality songwriting and some great performances. And while I was far from calling myself a fan with these recordings, I did get to see the hype a little bit. So much so that I was actually starting to get a little hyped when their albums were coming out. But with their next two recordings, Amo and That's the Spirit, I mean, they were just putting out some of the worst material in their discography, I felt like. I mean, the songwriting here, the lyrics were so obnoxious, and production-wise, I just didn't see where they were going and what they were trying to put together. Now, since 2019, they have made the controversial decision to sort of go in a poppier direction with their music to listen to sort of compilation album that they released, as well as the first post-human survival horror, also digital album that they put out. Don't really know how they classify these things these days, but as far as the sound of these records go, it has been a little bit of a controversial topic. I know some people really hate the poppier side of their music and the dancier side of the direction that they were going in, but other people have seemed to be really appreciating it and embracing it, and I kind of put myself in the latter. I've actually respected what they've done with their last two releases. Yeah, they are long recordings to say the very least, but the band, I don't know what it is about these recordings. They actually bring a sort of pop edge to their music really well. I mean, it's fit for big arenas, but they kind of have filled the shoes, at least as far as those two projects go. Now, this latest album has been teased for quite some time. I mean, there have been numerous release dates tossed around. The singles, I mean, leading up to this album have been floating around some since 2021. That's how long this album has been teased, and it just kind of dropped out of nowhere last week. And let me tell you, this album exists. This album certainly is not short of ideas. It's 16 tracks, almost an hour long, and let me tell you, I mean, you could say this, the band is certainly trying. Whether or not they succeed is kind of up for debate. Utopia early on, I mean, the band is really not wasting any time and kind of sounding very average. I mean, like I said, I've kind of defended their poppier and dancier stuff, but as far as this sound goes, this production here is taking a big back step. I mean, this really does worry me early on the album. I mean, this track just sounds like it has this big, larger-than-life sound that Bring Me the Horizon think that this is going to be the sound of the future. And it really does not live up to that. I mean, these verses are just so light and airy, and it's honestly not that exciting, nor is the sort of straightforward pop-punk and metalcore that we get here. I mean, if this is the look for the rest of this album, you could count me out. I'm kind of worried. I mean, there is a lot of material on this album, and a bulk of it's just not my cup of tea, man. Top 10 statues that cried blood. I mean, wow, this track is getting really faceless and annoying really fast. I mean, what's going on here? I mean, I get it. Hyperpop's a thing right now, and apparently Bring Me the Horizon have discovered it. Doesn't really sound too good, though. And, like, I like that sound, and I think that there's a place for that in an album like this, but I don't think they're doing it a lot of justice. I mean, take, for example, other artists that are using this sound in this vein right now. This just doesn't add up. It sounds crowded, rushed, sloppy, and just plain ugly. and a bullet with my name on, featuring Under Oath. I don't know what happened here. I personally think it's the worst track of the bunch. I mean, if I had to really like point to one track here and call it just straight up kind of obnoxious, it sadly would be this one. Once again, this hyper pop, glitch pop sound, it's not doing the band any favors. And like I said, I mean, I've defended their poppier and dance stuff in the past, but this isn't scratching any itches of mine, and I was never, growing up, never an Under Oath guy, and this isn't exactly helping. As far as my notes go on the track NA, I simply have the word no written. I mean, I feel like on this track they are ripping off so many bands that I can't physically list them. Like, why does Bring Me the Horizon think that this project is the Black Parade? It's not. And most importantly, I hope they're having fun with this record, because I'm not. Now, this record is long, but it is not all bad. As a matter of fact, when the band focuses, I still think that they do have a great sound to them. I still really love Kool-Aid. This track was dropped early this January, and I still really enjoy it. It's got a big sound to it. I love the fluttering synths. The hook is a little poppy, I'm warning you, but I do really enjoy it. It's honestly one of the most complete sounding tracks here. I would not mind listening to it some more. It's a great single. liMOusIne featuring Aurora. This track might be the best track here. It is shockingly good. I'm definitely getting some Deftones White Pony vibes on this track. Everything about this track is just so bulky and nasty, and not only that, but I have not heard Oli Sykes sounds this dangerous in years. The dreamy vibes are really nice, and the patience of this track is fantastic. I mean, it sounds like it can pounce at any moment, and I love that. Also, really love DArkSide. This is the sort of over-the-top, gloomy, almost campy, sort of dark alternative rock and alternative metal that John from What's Spinning would have gravitated towards when he was 15. And listen, they perform the hell out of this, and I'm all for it. Hook-wise, it's one of the most memorable here, and the production does stand up. I mean, I can't complain about this. If we got more tracks like this, I'd be a pretty happy boy right now. But let me tell you, this album is all over the place. It is all over the place. The OST interludes, they're a roller coaster in itself. The Dream Seeker one, God, we really just did not need this. This was 20 seconds of my life that I could have gotten back. I could have made myself a cup of coffee. On the other hand, the spiritual OST, a complete opposite end of the spectrum, it's honestly one of the coolest tracks here. This gritty, sort of trip-hop inspired beat, it is really super moody, and it just sounds really good. Now, I don't know exactly how much of this I want to hear from the band, but I'm sure glad that this interlude is here. And the final OST, the Puss-E one, it's classy, guys. This one is honestly a mess, and can be really used to point out the sounds of this album as a whole. I mean, the vocal snippets and the obnoxious voiceover, I mean, it clashes so hard. The ideas of this instrumental clash so hard. Instrumentally, there are exciting moments, even thrilling moments. But a whole lot of this track just clashes. This album has ridiculous shoes to fill, and it just does not come close. And apparently all bets are off with the second portion of this album. Take, for example, Lost. It's another track that's been around for a while. I mean, this track here might be the closest thing that Bring Me the Horizon ever get to putting through a just complete, full-blown pop tune, and I don't hate it. It's catchy, it's passionate, it's got that great hook, it's got a sense of urgency to it as well. It's not that bad. But if you hate it, trust me, I get it. I do, on the other hand, like Strangers quite a bit, though. Now, trust me, I understand. The band here is literally biting and clawing at the sounds of 90s alternative rock radio. But much like 21 Pilots, who also released an album recently, when Bring Me the Horizon focus, they have such a lock on this sound. It's one of my favorite deep cuts here. I love the performances. I love the hook. I also do really like the duskCOre remix of Rest in Peace. Honestly, if you're looking for Bring Me the Horizon, going for that sort of glitchy pop sound, that hyper pop sound, and doing it well, check this out. It's heady and it's urgent, but unlike some other examples of this sound here, this track at least has a slight semblance of a tune to it. As a matter of fact, it's really catchy, and yes, there are some very awkward, cheesy lines, but I appreciate this track. And Amen, featuring Daryl Palumbo of Glassjaw and Lil Uzi Vert. I mean, this track dropped quite some time ago as a single, but I still can't wrap my head around it. And that's not a bad thing. I actually do like the track quite a bit, but what a time to be alive. For a modern sound from Bring Me the Horizon, I think this is a sweet spot. It's got the nasty nods to metalcore, it's definitely a little angsty, but it's also got nods to their poppy side as well. And yeah, I'm never really upset to hear Daryl Palumbo on anything. A, and B, I'd rather take this than anything on Whole Lotta Red, but that's just me. But sadly, I do feel like Bring Me the Horizon have bit off more than they can chew this time around, like Die for example, which was the first single dropped from this album a few years ago. And it still sounds like it should have been left on the shelf. Ali on vocals here. My lord, he sounds like a fish out of water. Instrumentally, it's okay. It's not the worst thing here. I just wish this track wasn't so freaking awkward. And dig it as a finale. I mean, my god, a 7-minute finale after all of this. It was not exciting for me. And let me tell you, it is rough listening to it. Everything about this track, from its goofy atmosphere and, oh god, oddball vocal snippets. My lord. And then Oli Sykes pops in and sounds like he's literally covering Justin Timberlake for the first few minutes. And I was hoping and praying for some sort of progression. And we do eventually get there. The second half of this track is a little bit more manageable. But still, it's tough to get through. This album is tough to get through. They've been hyping this album up for years. They've been dropping singles for this since 2021, and it's 2024, and this is the album we're getting? I mean, I hate to be that guy, but a lot of the best tracks here we've known about for over 2 years. A lot of the deep cuts on this record do not nearly hold up. A lot of the instrumentals, the interludes, the production choices, and some really crappy poppy hooks just make this album really bloated. Yeah, there's good material here, but we've known about it for a while now, and as the grand scheme of things goes, this is not Bring Me the Horizon putting together their Black Parade. As a matter of fact, I think it's one of their most lopsided efforts since their early days. I'm feeling a strong 4 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.